Hello, everyone. We are part of the programs team, and we are going to facilitate you today the session about evaluation and reporting. So hope you enjoy it, and we start with Barbara.
Hello everyone, my name is Barbara Nyaga. I'm from Sake, Kenya, and I'm the current program coordinator for maternal health and access to safe abortion. I'll be taking you through the introductory part of the webinar, and then I'll let my amazing fellow facilitators to continue. So let's begin. Next slide. So yes, welcome aboard. I hope you're all ready to learn something new because yes, all of us know a bit on evaluation and reporting, but I'm very sure there's one or two things that you'll learn from all of us today. Next slide. So this slide is basically an overview of the whole activity management process. As you may all be familiar with it, we have the activity planning stage where you basically design your activity and plan what you'd like to do. And then the second stage is the implementation where you actually conduct your activity. And while you're conducting your activity, there's something we call activity monitoring. And thereafter, we have the evaluation. We'll clarify the definitions in a bit. And later on, you do revisit the activity design, which is called backwards mapping. So that's basically an overview of activity management. Next slide, please. So here is the activity cycle. As you can see, basically the activity cycle comprises of three main components. We have the activity planning, activity monitoring, and activity evaluation. So when you're doing the activity planning, you're basically setting the vision and you are, let me say, planning how the activity will take place from beginning to end, just designing the activity in the flow of events. And when you're doing the activity monitoring, you're basically planning how to monitor and evaluate. And of course, during the implementation, you're monitoring your activity. And finally, in the third component, which is the activity evaluation stage, you manage and use evaluation methods. And all through the activity cycle, you can choose to or not to involve stakeholders. Next slide. So what exactly is activity evaluation? Activity evaluation is the analysis of an activity that has either been completed or is ongoing in order to determine or support management accountability, effectiveness, and efficiency. So the two main components of activity evaluation is to assess the efficiency and the effectiveness of an activity. So what exactly is this efficiency? The efficiency of an activity is how productive or fruitful the implementation of the activity was. So how exactly did this activity help and how productive was it? What did we gain? What did people gain? What was the benefit? So that's the efficiency, how productive the activity was. And when you look at the activity effectiveness, it's the extent to which the product or the activity achieved the intended objectives. Of course, when you're planning an activity, there are objectives that you've planned, and you also have success indicators. So, however, the extent to which you achieve these objectives and your success indicators is what is the effectiveness of your activity. And effectiveness can either be summative, which is done at the end of the activity, or formative, which is done before or during the activity. Yes, next slide. And now we're looking at activity monitoring. Activity monitoring is collecting data and observing trends during the life of the activity that further leads to activity evaluation and or the impact assessment. So you can choose to monitor the activity as it goes on and such that it's a prerequisite to the evaluation in order for you to be able to measure your impact. That's basically activity monitoring, or in easier words, it's just activity observation. Yes. Next slide. What is activity assessment? Activity assessment is a methodical way of acquiring, reviewing, and using information about an activity or its participants to make improvements where necessary. So the reason why you would want to assess your activity is to know where to improve in your activity, if it's continuous, or in future events where you went wrong. And when you're assessing an activity, we look at two main components, which is the outcome of the activity and the impact. That is how you are properly able to assess your activity. Next slide. So every assessment task is important. Why would I say this? I will let Gregory handle this in the next session, but it's very important to know that every single thing you do in an activity assessment is important, because that's how you're able to know the mistakes that you did, where you went wrong during the activity, and where you can improve in future. It will even help you as an activity coordinator to be more efficient. Next slide. So now we're looking at the two basic components that you look at when you're doing activity assessment. We first look at the outcomes. The outcomes are what they measure the change in behavior, resources, or the acquirement of new skills and knowledge. And outcomes are always used in relation to goals or the objectives of the project or the activity. And of course, outcomes are classified in terms of their time frame. For example, you can have short-term or immediate outcomes, which are the what you will see immediately after you conduct your activity. Intermediate outcomes, which could come a short time after the activity, and long-term outcomes, which will occur way afterwards. And most times you find the long-term outcomes can end up being permanent results of your activity. Next slide. So the second part of activity assessment is impact. Impact is the measures of change that result from your activity or intervention being completed, such as the responses to surveys, requests for further information, or number of products taken up. So you can measure the impact by even stating the number of trainer participants. You can also measure by looking at the differences between the pre and post evaluation for knowledge-based interventions. And you can also assess impact by measuring the changes in the attitude of people participating in the workshop. This can be done by just asking people what they thought about it in person, of course, in physical activities. Next slide. So last but not least, in my very short presentation, is the differences between assessment and evaluation. I know most of you might assume that they're the same thing. I personally did so for a while, but there are quite a number of differences, as we're going to see. So we start by the first difference is in the definition. You see, in assessment, it's the process of collecting, reviewing, and using data to improve the current performance of the activity, whereas evaluation is the act of assigning value and comparing on the basis of a set of standards. The purpose of assessment was mostly diagnostic, so that I can be able to know and identify the areas that I would need improvement in my activity. Whereas in an evaluation, it is mostly judgmental, because it aims at providing an overall grade or conclusion. Basically, it would be asking, how satisfied are you with this session? Because there are specific standards you've already set when you're doing an evaluation, as opposed to an assessment where you're going to ask people, where can I improve? What went wrong? What can we do better? The third difference is in the orientation. Assessment is mostly process oriented, but an evaluation is product oriented. And last is, what does an assessment do? It basically provides feedback on your performance in the areas that you need improvement. But an evaluation will determine the extent to which you achieved your objectives in your activity. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I am finally through with the differences, and I hope you've gotten the difference. Next slide. So lastly, if you can measure it, you can manage it. Last slide. So brace yourselves. More slides are coming, and I would like to welcome my next facilitator, who is Gregory. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello. Thank you, Barbara. I think Barbara gave you a very good brief of what evaluation and reporting is. So let me introduce myself. I'm Gregory, and I'm the program coordinator for communicable diseases for this term. And during the next couple of minutes, we're going to go through a little bit more detail into the evaluation. So we can proceed to the next slides. Thank you. Uh, why do we do evaluation? Why is important to evaluate our activities? I'd like to divide this why into the before the activity, the during, and the after the activity. Well, before the activity, it's basically all about assessing where you are, assess your resources, your strengths, seeing if you're capable of doing something, if you want more resources for something to get in order to achieve your goals. So before the assessment, before the activity, you assess where you are. During the activity, it's all about monitoring your work. Basically, see if you have left anything behind, if you're okay with deadlines and all of those. And then we're going to the after the activity. Thank you. Well, after the activity, as you can see, is the most important part of evaluation. The whys here are many, and basically it's that part that usually is forgotten because, well, you finish with an activity, you go out partying because you have finished with the activity. Okay, you're relief and everything went well. So you proceed to maybe another activity, but the evaluation after the activity is important because you want to see whether the project objectives have been met, and you want to measure the effectiveness and the efficiency of your activity. You also want to be accountable for those who are funding the activity, report back to them and see if their funds did any good to your activity and you brought any impact. You want to debrief to your group and see what you did good or what you didn't do so well in order to develop your skills in the future. You also want to plan your future activities to learn from your mistakes, and of course to keep a historical record of the management success, so to keep anything that you did good. So as you can understand, after the activity evaluation is vital. We can move on. Great, and now I would like to give you a few tools in order to help you with activity evaluation. And basically, before the activity, you just need to conduct a baseline assessment. Well, anything that helps you find out your current state is a baseline assessment tool. You assess where you're now, you prioritize and define the focus on your actions, and you utilize your resources. There are a few tools that will help you with baseline assessment. And next slide, please. The most common tool is the SWOT analysis. I'm sure that most of you are already familiar with this. So it's in order to frame up a picture of where you are now and prepare for your next moves. So you write down your strengths and your weaknesses, which is the internal aspects, and the opportunities and threats, which are the external aspects. For example, as a strength, I have many experienced members that can conduct the activity, or as a weakness, I don't have so much experience in that specific field. An opportunity can be external partners that I can collaborate with in order to maximize my effect. But why would a SWOT analysis be valuable and be important if you didn't use it well? Are we going to say that, okay, I don't have so much experience in that field, so I can move on with it? I will do a less impactful activity. I think nobody wants that. So basically, the important thing now is to see how you will use those SWOT analysis, how you will use those strengths, how will you minimize the threats. And that leads me to the next slide, which is the TOES matrix, which basically like a reverse SWOT analysis, where you take the best advantage of the opportunities open to you, you minimize the impact of weakness, and protect against external threats. So basically, you link the different aspects of the SWOT together, and well, linking weaknesses with opportunities. As I said before, maybe a weakness is that I don't have enough capacity to contact my activity. So an opportunity is the external partners that I can collaborate with. So how can I use this opportunity in order to tackle this weakness? And the similar way goes with also strengths and threats, and strengths and opportunities, how to maximize the efficiency of these actions. So the TOES matrix is basically your plan on how to use all those things that you identified during your baseline assessment, during your SWOT analysis. And I think it will be the most important of those three. So moving on, yeah, we have the stakeholders mapping, which kind of weird because you may wonder, why is this an evaluation tool? It has to do with external parts, but basically through a stakeholders mapping, you identify possible partners and opportunities and determine how to approach them. So you evaluate the state of each stakeholder, either they are on high interest or low interest. And as I'm going to mention at the end, you basically, after the activity, can go back to the stakeholders mapping and reevaluate if you brought any impact. For example, if you took a stakeholder from the low level of interest and you have brought them to the high level of interest, so this would be a success. So stakeholders mapping would help you do that. So now during the activity, as I said in the beginning, yes, we can move on. It is basically monitoring the progress of the activity, and you can easily do that through a timeline. Well, the timeline is basically created at the beginning of the planning, during planning the activity. But it's always important to take a look at it during implementing the activity and everything, in order to see if you're good with the deadlines, if you are too close to a deadline and you need to speed up, or if you have missed a deadline and then you need to rethink about it, or even if you need to change the time plan because things may have changed, and you need to adapt to the situation. So yes, timeline is important, monitoring the activity. And now we're moving on to the after the activity, which, as I said, the beginning is one of the most vital parts regarding activity management. So here we have the qualitative and the quantitative methods. Well, the qualitative methods are about to inform you about the process of the activity and some results. You get qualitative results. And then you have quantitative, which focuses on numbers, on concrete results and measurable change. I wouldn't say that that either the one or the other is more important. I would say that both of them are equally important. But let's see a few examples. Yeah, well, thank you. So regarding the qualitative evaluation methods, you can basically ask people if they like the activity and what was the activity like. Barbara mentioned before that you can interview the person and ask them, maybe describe the activity with 2 words or 1 word, or what impact did the activity bring to you. So you have questionnaires, you have interviews, and all of those methods. And another method to do so is the physical methods. You can have photographic methods or participant observation. You basically observe the interaction of participants if they raise hands to make a question, or if they are on their phones during the a workshop or a speech. So you measure the pulse of the participants, and actually is a very good tool in order to get feedback and to see if they like the activity. Well, we can go to the quantitative results, which is basically numbers. You ask them to rate their knowledge, to rate if they like the coffee breaks or the logistics of the activity, the speakers, and all the aspects, all the methods you used. And basically, you collect that data, you group those data, and you do the statistical any statistical modality. Then you can present those data with many different ways, which Bisuk will tell you. Um, quantitative results are very important because you basically can report back to the people that funded your activity, as I said in at the beginning. So yes, both qualitative and quantitative results are important. We can move on. And as I'm about to finish with this presentation, I would like to stress that you always have to adapt to your methodology. If you have conducted a campaign, then you can't send a questionnaire and ask the participants something, because basically there are no participants. There are just the people that attended that showed your campaign. So basically you need to go through the reach of the posts you had, or the likes if it's a social media campaign. But if you have contacted a workshop or something, then yes, you can have a questionnaire, and you can have a pre and post evaluation form to measure your impact and everything. But always think of what methods you have used and what would be the most appropriate way to evaluate the activity. And of course, get back to the tools you used. You have conducted a SWOT analysis or a TOES matrix. After the activity, you have to go back and see, okay, did I use those tools? Did I use all of my strengths? Did I minimize the threats? Did I tackle my weaknesses through utilizing my opportunities? So basically, you reflect on those tools you used. As I said before, the stakeholders analysis or the TOES matrix, or even the timeline where you need to create again a timeline, the real timeline that time, because you have may meet some deadlines. So next time you have to go through the actual timeline that you followed the previous time, and not the ideal one. So get back to the tools and reevaluate them and reflect on them. And finally, I'd like to close that with tools are tools, and they are here to help. They are not here to make your life more difficult, because okay, SWOT analysis is important, but if you don't know how to use a SWOT analysis in the appropriate way, or if you need too much time to make the SWOT analysis and there are other priorities, that okay, you don't need to do a SWOT analysis. You just need to think about some strengths, to see everything, and go on with your activity. But of course, tools are helpful, and in case you need any help with them, the program team is always here, and you can reach us, and you can read the toolkit that IFMSA has, and you can ask us anything. So I will leave the floor to Bisuk to talk you about reporting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Greg, for the evaluation part. And yeah, my name is Bisuk. I'm from Indonesia, and currently I'm serving IFMSA. I'm serving you as the program coordinator for ethics and human rights in health. And we're going to talk about the program reporting. And it's kind of really related to what Greg already explained. So yeah, please go through the great part about the program evaluation. Then we can learn more about the program report after that. So another why, like we already started with the importance, like why it's important to have evaluation on your activity. Then we can continue with why do we need to report our activity. So actually, the FMSA program has two purposes of reporting. So actually, like before you already enroll, I think you already learned about how to enroll and the importance of the enrollment process. And right now we're gonna talk about the reporting. So after you enroll your activity, you do your activity, then you do the evaluation of your activity, and the last part or the last step that you can try to achieve to complete all of your activity by reporting your activity. Then um, why is reporting essential for us as FMSC, as an association, or even like for you as an animal? So we have two purposes of reporting your activity to FMSC program. The first one, we can measure the cumulative impacts of the activities of the animals. So we can measure your impact, the other animals' impact, our impact. And by having that kind of measure to the cumulative impacts of the activities of the animals, then we can calculate as well the indirect impact of FMSA as an association, as the platform for us to exchange ideas, to also have like impact to the society. So by having, that's why we always tell you that you are the most important part of FMSC. Member are the most important part of FMSC. We are here because of you. So that's why our impact, also your impact, even you are the most important one, you are the first line to have the impact to the society. And by reporting this, we can also try to measure our indirect impact as FMSA, as organization, as association. So we have two purposes to report, and why like why you need to report your activity for us as FMSC and for you as animal. Next. And then another question secured, why and how, about the reporting. The first one, try to report your activity right after the evaluation of your activity is finished. After you already evaluate your activity, you can go through Gregory a slide before how to evaluate your activity, and then you can try to report your activity after you finish the evaluation process. But you need to take care also about the impact assessment. You have, if you already have the impact assessment ready to be shared, then it's also the right time to report your activity. So we have like two conditions here. If you already finished the evaluation part, and also you have the impact assessment ready to be shared. And you need to report all your enrolled activity before 15th of June every year, which means if you already enrolled your activity this term, starting from after June 2020, or even like starting from this term, let's say October for FMSA term, then try to report your activity before 15th of June 2021. So that's like your due time to report your activity. And your report will be reported in our FMSA program annual report, which will be discussed later on by our lovely team. So next stage. And yeah, let's go through the activity report form. It's not that hard, it's easy. And I think you can also, even without listening to my explanation, I think you can go through by your own. But I will help you here to at least understand some important points that sometimes also become like has problem with the activity coordinator when they are reporting their activity. We have 5 big parts of the activity report form. Remember, after you enroll the activity, you do your activity, you do the evaluation of your activity, then do report your activity. Then we need your consent first about having your data. So because that's also the essential, of FMSA, we need your consent first. If you don't give your consent, then we can't proceed with the reporting. That's the first one. The second one about the general information. Next slide, please. About the general information is all about like the identity of your activity, identity of your activity coordinator, and also the contact of your activity coordinator. Why do we need your contact? We already have your contact on program, like enrollment, but we also need your contact for reporting to make sure that you have like the same activity coordinator, for example, and we can try to contact them regarding the reporting part to make sure to confirm everything for the reporting part. And if you need any help, we will be more than happy to help you as program coordinator or even like as program assistant to serve you. And we also want to know about like yeah, actually basically it's kind of the same with the enrollment part, so you can just copy paste everything with from your enrollment form to make sure that you have the same data from the enrollment and also the reporting. Next part. Then we go to the third part, which is the activity design. It's also kind of the same. You can try to copy paste from the enrollment form. Plus, you can add the input from the program coordinator, because when you enrolled your activity, the program coordinator might have like some feedbacks, some input regarding your, for example, outcomes, indicators, or something like, or even like the methodology of your evaluation, blah, blah, blah. Then try to include there in your activity design. So actually you have like around 4 questions for the activity design about the problem statement, smart objectives, success indicators, and the goal of the activity. Kind of the same with the enrollment form. You can just copy paste plus add the feedback from us. Next one. This is the different one, the evaluation and impact assessment, because yeah, after you already, like I said, you need to evaluate your activity first, then you go with the reporting. Then in the evaluation and impact assessment part, which is the fourth part of the reporting form, you will be asked several questions here. You can see the first one, which tools for evaluation did you use? You can take maximum of 3 applicable. I think Gregory already explained about this. Like for example, uh, the matrix, Toys matrix, SWOT, or even like stakeholders mapping or analysis. And then you can also try to use the timeline part. So try to think a maximum 3. And if you like, feel free to contact your program coordinator if like what Greg said, it's kind of confusing for you for the evaluation of your activity. Then try to contact us. Then you can fill the evaluation part. I mean, like well. I mean, like you can try to fill it not that wrong, but also it can be beneficial for you to use, and you can even like hand over that to the next activity coordinator. And then the other question about what evaluation method did you use for the evaluation, whether it's going to be like qualitative or even quantitative, try to answer that. If it's qualitative, I think Greg also already mentioned about interviews, case stories, photographs, participants' observation, experience, or feedback. And regarding the if you have like the quantitative part, then you can also mention your progress, calculation of data from indicators, grouping of data, statistical modalities, mean, standard deviation, and other stuff. Then we can also have you will have another question about evaluation method that you use. Like yeah, I already mentioned the qualitative and quantitative, and then what percentage did you achieve from your objectives. So that's why from your enrollment form, make sure that you also point out like quantitative or even qualitative data for your like, and also smart objectives to make sure that you won't face any difficulties to report your activity back after that, because I found like some activity coordinators also have problem with that. So try to contact your program coordinator to understand more about this and to hear more feedback on that. So you won't find any difficulties on reporting, because this also like one of hard part within the reporting process. And then outcomes of your activity, for you can mention the long-term outcomes, the short-term outcomes, the positive outcomes, and also negative outcomes. So it doesn't have to be like short-term outcomes only, but it can be like long-term outcomes, and not only the positive outcomes, but also if you have any negative outcomes, you can also try to mention there. And then you will be asked also about the total number of people reached from your activity. um, like try to put exact number there if you have any data, and try to collect the data before you have to like during your activity, so you can have a good report. And then you will be asked as well, did you conduct any research based on your activity? Then you can mention there if you have any kind of research, and also how you assess the success and the effect of your activity as the support from of your activities. And then for FMSA did you use any FMSA document or template or presentation? You can also measure there. You can also put there. If yes, then it will be real beneficial for us to measure our like if our document is used by you or not, so we can know about that one. And then did you manage to get any financial support for to your activity, whether it's gonna be like grants, sponsorship, and other stuff, for example, from FMSA or not? You can try to mention here as well to know whether our opportunities also used well by our NMOs or not. And then you will have another question about did you collaborate with an external partners. It's also really important for FMSA to assess the success and effect of your activity for the external parts, because external partners need it there to broaden your impact to society. And you will also be asked about um, how your activity is innovative or not, and how are you ensuring the sustainability of your activity, to make sure that you have not only one side, like, or like one shot of activity, but to have a sustainable one. I think this is also things that you can discuss with your program coordinator to have a sustainable activity rather than only have a one shot activity. And then you can also try to mention what you like to tell us anything about your activity, another like unexpected events, or like maybe like some success that not been mentioned before on the part of the question, the previous questions. You can also mention here. And then which program did you enroll your activity with? You make sure that you put the same answer with the enrollment form, so we won't find any difficulties on tracking your activity. And yeah, next we have the last part for the program specific. Basically, it's just like confirmation from the enrollment form. We can hopefully you can also put the same thing on the reporting form to make sure that your program, where your program is enrolled, is the same with where you report your activity. You can mention where which program you enroll. Like one program is better to mention, but if you think that your activity suitable to be within in two programs, then you can try. You can also mention the other program that related to your activity, but maximum by two. And then the focus area of your activity, I think I already mentioned before on the enrollment process, the target groups, beneficiaries, and last but not least, try to share with us some photos of your activity to make sure that you have a good documentation, and for us as well, to show the world that we have impactful activities from our members. Last slide from me. Next slide. Don't forget to enroll, then report, and we are here to support you, even have collaboration with you, then repeat. Thank you so much, and I'll give the floor to Tay.
Thank you very much, Bisik. So for the last part of this webinar, we're going to talk about the program annual impact report. So how can we see the impact of all the reports with the program annual impact report? This program annual impact report presents the IFMSA program's achievement in the term, is going to introduce the program in general, also is going to present the global impact of activities conducted by the NMOs, and for the last is going to present major statistics and data collected from IFMSA programs throughout the term. It's going to present the number of enrollments, the number of reportings, the number of contributions, etc. So the basic data that is going to contain the annual impact report for each one of the programs, the IFMSA programs, are going to be the number of activities per region, the number of activities per type or category, the level of each one of the activities, the number of people reached, the number of activities per beneficiary group, and the number of activities that had a collaboration with externals. And the last point is going to be the notable achievements. And in this part, we're going to have two main things: the impact achieved in regards to the IFMSA programs or the program goals, and the impact achieved by IFMSA in regard to the program's goal. Then, how to make a report interesting. The first thing we're going to talk about is the photos. The best way to have the reader's attention is with photos. Then to have a consent and copyright before adding any photo or any picture that you would like to add. Have a balance between information and picture is crucial. And choose those pictures meaningful to the activity, the ones that are actually related with your activity. Then the other thing that we have is tables and graph. Name the axes and give them a meaningful title for each one of them, and they need to be easily understandable. This means that someone who doesn't know about the topic should be able to explain or to understand your graph and table. And remember that less is more. Please don't overload your graph. If it is needed, please have 2 graphs instead of 1. And also don't forget about the ethical implication of the activity and the privacy regulation regarding the data, for example, the GDPR. So now we're going to have a space for you. Do you have any questions? Please feel free to ask in the chat of the YouTube live. We're going to wait like some minutes. Also, if you have any other comments, the program coordinators, please feel free to add.
Well, I would just like to say that it was always difficult for me as an activity coordinator to to understand all the differences between the enrollment and why is it different to the report and why do I have to write everything again. And yes, but I think that if you just at least if you go just a little bit through the documents and you see the purpose of each of them, I think it's pretty easy to understand. But I was always not contacting the program coordinators, which was my mistake. So I think that you should do it, and all your questions will be solved immediately.
Okay, so I see no questions. But what are the main or the frequent questions that we have that the people may have regarding the report is what happens? Bisuk was telling us that the report is before the June 15th. So what happens if you report after this date? Don't no worries. It's going to count also, but it's going to appear in the next program annual impact report. Another frequent questions that we have is what happens if I don't report my activity? So for this question, we have 2 mini scenarios. For the first one, if your activity is a continuous activity and you fail reporting in 2 consecutive terms, then your activity loses its enrollment status and then you have to re-enroll this activity. And the other scenario is that if it is your first time activity, then it doesn't like have any consequences, but you are hindered from your PCs measuring this activity, the impact of this activity. And yeah, that 2 are the main common or frequent questions that you may have about or regarding the reporting part. So if there is any other questions, we would like to thank you very much for being part of this webinar. And also don't forget to join to the rest of our activities in the program week. And don't forget to rock and roll to achieve your goal. So thank you very much to everyone and see you soon.